Hi, I'm Soph.
And I'm Phil.
This is Brian.
And Shelby. And you're listening to
HyperBright
TreeBlast.
Aren't you a little short for a podcast?
Huh? Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to the HyperBright TreeBlast Comedy Hour. That's
It's not
only
an
half
hour.
an hour. Oh, jeez.
Hi, everyone. We have some special guests with us today, as you can hear. We have Phil and Soph from Bright Tree Radio joining us.
Hey, y'all.
We challenged them to do their American accents, so that's what's happening.
We really should.
That's about as far as it goes.
Yeah, I was going to say, you should do it the whole show. That would be amazing, but yeah. Anyway, what we're actually going to talk about today is the general idea was, how do you consume Star Wars differently now that you're, like, I'm doing big air quotes here, part of fandom, or, you know, doing a podcast, creating rather than just consuming. So the first thing I want to ask is, what does being part of fandom even mean? Like, in your opinion, what does being part of fandom mean?
I think it's sort of like you're part of a big community of people who share in the same sort of loves and passions as you. I think it's pretty tight knit.
So yeah, I think there's different levels of fandom. Mm-hmm. So you got like the people that like a bit of the films, and you got the people that like the films and the books, and the films, the books, and the comics, and then a bit of role play and all sorts of stuff, you know?
Like evolutions of fan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would
and
agree
they're
with
all sort of graded together, and then you get the people that like to podcast about their fandom.
There you go. The weird people.
Yeah, exactly.
Podcast power couples.
There you go. Yeah, I would say like fandom is more what you described there, like being involved in some way other than just consuming it. Like, I think a fan can be, like, I would say my parents are Star Wars fans. Like, they go to the movies, they enjoy them, they like the story. But outside of that, you know, it's just another movie to them that they like. It's on the same level as like a Bond movie or something like that, where fandom is when you like sink your teeth into it, so to speak. And like you said, there's different levels of that. Maybe you just consume more outside of the movies, like maybe you read blogs, or maybe you just read some of the EU stuff or whatever. Then you've taken your first steps into fandom.
I agree with that, Brian. I think that it doesn't take a lot to become part of a fandom. There's no gatekeeper or anything, no Sailor Scout.
Oh, snap.
Standing guard. But I think that as long as you're doing some sort of involvement, I think what it really comes down to is people, and those who are not the creators of the original media creating. Whether you're creating it yourself or someone else is consuming it, like that exchange of people and ideas is what creates the fandom, is how I think about it.
I'd say that's right.
Yeah.
So on that topic, like, why did you guys decide to start a podcast? Like, what prompted this whole Bright Tree Radio endeavor?
That was you, Phil, wasn't it?
Yeah, we thought to ourselves, we've got nothing else to do in the evening. You know, we've only just got television over here. So what should we do? We start a podcast. No, we both started like listening to podcasts. I listened to a bit of WWE and a bit of Star Wars, and Sophie listened to Star Wars. And
I hear that.
And then from there we thought, well, we might give this a go, see what it's like, see how we get on, and we found it super duper fun, really. And
You were more confident than me, weren't you? You were sort of kind of ran at it where I was like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. I'm just like, I just blog away behind the safety of a keyboard.
it's called charisma.
But
There you go.
Yeah, I think we got some pretty good, like, different perspective as well, because I'm quite a, like, hardcore fangirl, where you're all relatively new to the Star Wars fandom, so to speak. So I thought, actually, yeah, we'd have a pretty good perspective there. You've got some fresh, kind of new ideas, and you can calm me down a bit if I get a bit too over the top as well, and unbiased.
Yeah.
That's almost exactly like what I had planned because I had decided at some point last year, I was like, I'm going to do a podcast because I'm a genius and everyone needs to hear this. And then I was like, I can't just do it by myself. No one's going to listen to just me talk. So I asked Shelby, like, low-key, if she wanted to do it. She was like, sure, I guess so.
Is that what I sound like?
I think so, mostly.
Uncanny.
Sure, I guess.
Yeah, there you go. See, perfect. I sound more like her than she did trying to sound like her. Anyway, yeah, so it was like that different perspective, and I wanted that, female voice because, like you said, I listen to a lot of Star Wars podcasts as well, and it's a lot of dudes out there.
He convinced me to do the podcast, which I was like, well, I mean, I like Star Wars and everything, but I don't know if I can speak to it. And that was like an intimidating thing for me to overcome, to think, like, who am I to, like, say, oh, I'm going to talk about Star Wars and you should listen to me. So getting over that, like, imposter syndrome kind of feeling was a hurdle. But I think now that I'm doing it, I feel very confident in it because there's a lot of fans who are like me who don't know everything. I mean, there aren't any fans that know everything, but and if you
Just
claim
Pablo
that you
Hidalgo.
do,
I bet there are some.
They like to think so anyway.
they like to think so.
Yeah.
But I think that it's good to hear those kind of people talk about Star Wars because I don't like anyone feeling like they can't say anything about it and be involved in fandom.
Yeah, it's like the whole idea of speculation being wrong is just, really? How can...
Zonkly.
Yeah, like, take your ideas wherever you want to go, man. If someone says it's dumb, then don't talk to them anymore.
That's a good rule for life, though, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, for real, honestly.
Plus, Brian needed someone to do like all of the editing and
That's
things
true,
like
yeah.
that.
I needed someone smart to actually do the work for me.
He's like, I want to do a podcast, but I only want to do the fun parts.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like the situation here, isn't it?
Yeah.
I get to do the fun stuff and Phil's the
Sits there for
hardcore.
hours, taking out all the ums and yes
We're
and
not
terrible
bitter.
segues.
We're not bitter at all.
So,
right.
Moving on.
Yeah, I had no idea how often I say until we started doing podcast. I'm like, you know.
You know.
I
don't know, so maybe you have to do more dishes now that Phil has to edit. I don't know. Maybe that's why podcast power couples work.
Yeah,
I agree.
definitely.
You're doing the laundry because I'm editing this episode.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Yeah, so
I need to be the one doing the Star Wars research. I'm just watching Attack of the Clones again, for the
there you go.
podcast.
I like this. Yes, it's for the good of the podcast, honey. All right, to the main point, I guess, the impetus for the episode. Do you guys look at fandom and or just Star Wars in general differently now that you're part of the creative side as well as being consumers of stuff?
Yes.
Definitely.
We were
Moving
sat
on.
in Guardians of the Galaxy,
Oh, yeah.
and the trailer came up for Last Jedi, and then Soph turns to her dad and says, "So, how many people in this cinema do you think have done an hour podcast on this trailer?"
He was like, just you two.
So I think yeah, you look at things. You're definitely in a different way. You try and analyse things because you want to know, especially with the films coming up, you want to know what's going on, why that was done in that way, and where's it going and stuff like that. Just basically looking at the films that we've got coming forward, let alone re-looking at the books and seeing the correlations between the new films and what was in the EU books, and how they're I think quite clearly taking parts from the EU books into the new films and sort of putting a little twist on it and making it their own way, but using the ideas.
I mean, it's there, isn't it? Why not draw from it as inspiration if you want to?
Right. I mean, they keep coming up with these little, like, there's always truth in legends, and there's some line similar to that in the Thrawn novel, too. So they're insinuating that they're purposefully drawing from this stuff already. So, and that's actually an interesting layer they've added with the whole Disney legends, whatever you want to call it. The whole idea that you can take new stuff and compare it, like you can compare Star Wars to Star Wars now, you know what I mean? Whereas you really couldn't do that.
So
I mean, you could
meta.
have before, but I know, right? Star Warsception.
I think as well, we're also much more up to date with like the current events in Star Wars. I mean, I don't think like this time last year, I don't think we would have sat and watched like the whole live stream of Celebration together. But we did that knowing fully well that we were going to podcast about it later. But it was actually quite a fun thing to do, wasn't it? We had a really great afternoon, like watching it and then recording an episode afterwards. But I'd say, yeah, we're much more abreast of current affairs now that we're podcasting, in theory. I mean, you can't know it all because it's just so much out there and so much news coming thick and fast that you can't keep up with it all. But
Right,
I would do what we can.
I would agree with that. I know, like, whenever I see anything, I'm like, oh, should we do an episode about that? Do we need to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Can we get 30 minutes out of that? I don't know why that was funny.
Someone tweets 140 characters and we're like, ooh, I don't know. Can we talk about that for half an hour? Probably. Sadly.
Yeah, we probably
It wouldn't
could.
be any good, but
Plus,
we could do it.
It's also interesting because there are a lot of podcasts who are focused on news, on Star Wars news. And I don't know, I think I've drawn these parallels between our podcasts. We like to talk about stuff that isn't super current as well. So kind of going back and getting into the nitty gritty of a lot of things.
Yeah, and
Definitely.
I think we both sort of just deal with whatever comes to mind. Like, you guys aren't, oh, this is what just happened in news, here's our podcast. And we don't really do that either. I mean, we both did a Last Jedi trailer bit, but I mean, you kind of have to do that.
There are some that are like, this is something that you have to do, and there is no question that you can get 30 minutes or more out of.
We basically, when we first started, we just drew up a spreadsheet of things that we wanted to talk about, and then if nothing's happened that week or there's nothing coming to mind, then we look back at the list and just pick something and then have a little chat and see how it goes. Sometimes they're terrible and we have to delete, but other times they come out all right.
We've done the same episode twice, like recorded the same topic twice just because it was like, that's bad.
Yeah, the Red episode, actually, we did it once. It was part of our first, was when we first released the podcast, we had 5 episodes in the can. We just released them all at once so that people, like, we thought since it was a short form show, maybe people would listen to the first episode and be like, and then never listen again. So we gave them lots of options to get into. And we did this one. We're like, we'll wait on it. And then, like weeks went by. We decided it was a good idea, but our first go at it was bad.
It didn't go so well.
It's one of my favourite episodes you've done, actually.
Yeah, I liked Red.
Yeah, I like Red.
Plus, with all the Last Jedi stuff, adding more info to Red.
Yeah, I'm glad we redid it. Like,
Yeah, for
honestly,
sure.
thinking about it, I'm really glad we redid it.
It is usually better second time round, isn't it? If you're not feeling it on the first one.
Yeah,
Yeah, and there were more things to
And,
tie into.
true.
Sometimes you're just in a bad mood as well, aren't you?
Oh yeah.
And you can tell that someone's not in the mood to do a podcast that night.
Yeah.
Isn't that right, Soph?
That was you. We were trying to review The Last Command or something, and you were just sort of like, yeah, we're not really feeling Thrawn right now.
15 minutes and I was like, I don't want to do this. And then we just stopped and started it another day.
There you
It
go.
worked out all right.
It went really well.
There's a clip out there of Brian and I bickering a little bit when we were recording the Last Jedi trailer response. And it's just like Brian saying, "You're making this not fun." And I said, "You're making this not fun." And he goes, "Well, let's quit."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like literally right after that, we just had a good episode.
But it's so true. Like sometimes it's just you can't. Like you have to take a break.
Yeah.
You have to walk away for a little bit and collect your thoughts and then go back in, when you're fresh. I know that Brian and I, for topics, we actually take like late night walks and just talk about things that we want to do on the podcast, which is actually really fun. I think it's like, a really neat thing to talk about together instead of just saying, whatever couples talk about that don't podcast. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think I've
Yeah,
forgotten what that
definitely.
It's
is.
amazing the amount of time that we don't watch telly now because we're chatting about Star Wars, chatting about a podcast, or thinking what we're going to do next, or reviewing other things or listening to other podcasts together. So I think we spend a lot more time together where the telly's not on, which is always good.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Every time you say telly, I think Teletubbies. And
Television, yeah.
I get kind of scared.
Teletubby gang's coming for you.
Okay.
What TV?
we put the flat screen on.
So, I mean, speaking on how you have to walk away sometimes, do you ever feel that you get to an overload point? And, if you do, because I'm assuming you do, how do you stop short of hitting that point?
I think.
Wait, I'm going to interrupt. I don't think Soph's got one, to be honest.
Hey, I do.
Really?
I'm very well restrained.
Okay.
I think it's a case of your bank balance determines your reality, doesn't it? So
True.
I'm quite an obsessive fan, so I think, well, I want all the books and all the comics and all the games, and that's just not possible. I think you need to focus on, okay, my passion is the books, so I'm going to collect and buy as many of the books as I can, and I'm going to have to accept the fact that I'm not going to read every comic, or I'm not going to be able to play every video game that there is. So it's a case of practicing restraint, which I can do.
I'm not sure about that.
You should write a blog post on, like, Star Warsing on a budget.
Yeah, really.
Because, I mean, seriously, I'd never thought about renting Rebels from the library.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a
like,
great point. I mean, I'd never thought about that because, I mean, I don't think people really have a lot of, I don't know. I mean, I guess some people would if you really love Rebels, but not a lot of people feel that need to own episodes of a show. in a like DVD format or Blu-ray.
Yeah, and since it's not available to stream anywhere, it's honestly hard to get a hold of. But
and very expensive if you buy it.
yeah, that local library though, frizzity free.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Especially, I quite like owning my books, so I wouldn't ever go and rent a book from the library because they're very precious to me. But for stuff like that, it's looking at alternatives, isn't it, as to how you consume other things.
Yeah, exactly. There's I made the switch to not audio. What's the word? Digital.
Kindle.
Yeah, thanks. And that's definitely saving money over hardcovers, especially because when you want to get that book when it first comes out, that's the only option you have. As far as physical, you can't unless you want to wait for the paperback. But who's got time for that when you got a podcast about it a week later?
Yeah, I also think it's okay to not know everything and not be into every aspect of Star Wars. I don't think no one's turned around to us and said, your podcast sucks because you guys don't watch Rebels yet. As far as I know. They haven't to our face anyway. I think it's okay and people accept that and you listen to different podcasts for different things and get different things out of them. We don't claim to be like the fountain of all Star Wars knowledge.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I think it's also a different experience probably for Phil too, because what I feel is there's so much stuff for me to catch up on, and if you try and get too ambitious with that, it can feel like a really big overload. So what I do is I take breaks because, whether I'm reading a book, I'm also watching like 2 different Star Wars shows all at the same time, which can get confusing. But I take breaks and say, okay, I'm going to watch the non-Star Wars things that I want to watch today, or I'm gonna do this not Star Wars thing today. It's almost like a scheduled break with another sort of like media.
Yeah, I completely agree that with some of the like old EU stuff, I'm really, really enjoying it, and then I'm kind of disappointed that it's so old and it's now legends as such that it's not going to be made into a film and stuff. So I'd then take a break, watch a bit of WWE or a bit of telly. And then I'm ready to start a new book, see how it goes, do a bit of canon, Thrawn book or something, and then you get back into it. But if it's all the time, I think for me personally, there are other things I enjoy as much as Star Wars, so I like to be able to spread my time. But doing the podcast and having the same things that I enjoy as Soph is really good and really fun, and it's good for our relationship, I think. So we stick at it.
What about you, Brian? Do you ever? I think, Phil, you and I both agree. I don't think Brian has any sort of point of overload. All Star Wars, all the time.
I can't be overloaded on awesome because I am an entity of pure awesomeness. Yeah.
Wow.
Silence.
Okay, Brian.
No, but honestly, I've actually kind of stepped back recently. I haven't read the 2 new Rogue One tie-in novels or even begun to. I have them both, but I haven't started them. I'm kind of taking a Dark Tower break right now, honestly.
Yeah. Awesome.
So, yeah, there's so much coming down the pipeline with this whole journey to The Last Jedi and all that's going to be building up toward the, latter part of the year. I decided for the best, I think, to put on the old brakes for a minute. Plus,
that's quite true because there is a lot of content coming out at the moment of everything, and we're getting hit from every angle of various different things that Star Wars are going to do and see, and just hope that they don't saturate the market too much so it turns people away from Star Wars. That's what I'm worried about.
Everyone's getting attacked by Star Wars content.
Yeah. Attack of the content.
Join us.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's almost like it's almost a cautionary tale, honestly. Like I get stuck in this idea of completionism and being like, I don't like this, but I have to read it. I'm having that problem with Ahsoka right now. According to my Kindle, I'm 40% through it and I can't make myself revisit it. But I'm like, I really want to know about all this Kyber crystal bleeding Inquisitor stuff, but it's just not that interesting to me.
I guess you could even tie that back to completionism whenever you're talking about collecting. I think that's such a really lofty thing to think about, to have all of the things.
Yeah, it's
to also consume all of the things, whether it's media or a physical figure, or figures.
Like Matt said, you can't do everything. Bill Gates is the only one that has enough money to collect every Star Wars thing. There's just too much. But if you pick something like the Black Series is his go-to, that's an achievable achievable goal. I think that's, another, like you said before, another life lesson here, Phil. Set achievable goals for yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
So, achievable Star Wars consumption. If all you want to do is make sure you watch the movies in the theaters 37 times each, you do that.
Star Wars self-help book.
Yeah, seriously.
How to set achievable fandom goals.
Do you
Well,
want
we
to
were
read
we
your
were around our
Star
friends the
Wars?
other day, and we were discussing about how we were going to get to the cinema for midnight and what we were going to do the next day at work and all this sort of stuff. And this is like May, so it does get a bit silly at times. But you got to plan these things in. When we're going to see it at midnight on the first night, and then when's the next time we're going to see it? Because we need to re-watch it just in case there's anyone annoying in the cinema and stuff like that.
Right on.
It's just how it goes.
So you guys still have to do the midnight release, huh?
Yeah.
That's rough. They put movies out at like 7 on the Thursday before release day here now. Yeah. Are you guys going to pod like straight away after you watch it?
Possibly.
Yeah, that's what we've
We already
We
already
talked
were
about
we've
considering interviewing some people at the cinema because you've got to be quite hardcore to go to cinema at midnight, haven't you?
Yeah, see, I actually thought about that as well. Like, I don't know if I want to buy something, but maybe just take some like iPhone recordings. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Just get like an audio app on your phone or something and do a bit of recording, and
yeah,
then you can pretend you're important,
exactly.
and then you might get a few more listeners as well because they want to hear their own voices, won't they? So
Yeah,
That's actually very true.
Yep, I'd actually considered that. I hadn't said it out loud yet, though. So thanks, Phil.
Yeah.
I'm taking it that you're just nicking my idea. It's fine. It's fine.
A little bit of comedy.
Play nicely, Phil.
Oh, he's just super. Don't even worry about it. All right, so that really is all the time we have this time. So where can the folks find you guys in case they don't already know?
England.
Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun.
You can catch me on Twitter at.
Come on, you can do this.
He doesn't tweet enough to remember his
He
handle.
doesn't tweet, he's rubbish.
You can catch me on Twitter at PhilipLawrence6 and on Instagram. Come catch some, have a look at some more pictures. And you, Soph?
Well, we're at Bright Tree Radio on Twitter, and my personal Twitter is at SHLawrence12.
What about that blogger?
Oh yeah, thanks. I also blog my Star Wars book feelings over on outerrimreviews.wordpress.com. Come on over there and see what book I'm nattering about.
Lovely.
You can find us on Twitter at hyperspace_pod or send us an email, hyperspacepodblast@gmail.com. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, YouTube, all the fun stuff. Drop us a review if you like us.
Yes, do that.
And make sure you drop a review for Bright Tree Radio. We'll see you later, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Ciao for now!
Bye!